So, what is NLP? Well, you all are doing it right now. I'm speaking some words and sentences, and you're listening to them and comprehending them. And when we ask a computer to do it, it is called natural language processing. Let's first explore how humans talk and interact with each other. We as humans communicate with each other through speech or text. The human way of communicating is known as natural language. Around the globe, n number of languages are spoken and messages are shared every minute. All these communications are data that can be proved extremely important to us, but it's of no use to computer as computer understands language in the form of zeros and ones, that is binary, and not words and sentences. Now here is where NLP comes into the picture. NLP, also known as natural language processing, it is a branch of artificial intelligence, which we call as AI, that deals with the interactions between computers and humans using natural language. It allows the machines to understand the human language. The ultimate goal of NLP is to read, decipher, and understand and make sense of how human language is and translate it into computer understandable form. NLP equipped tools are used worldwide, I must say, these days to gain insights from data and automate the routine tasks. NLP starts with something called unstructured text. Now, the question arises, you would ask, what is unstructured text? Well, that's just what you and I say, that's how we speak. For example, some unstructured text is add bread and butter to my shopping list. Now, here it is the unstructured list that you and I absolutely understand. But now, what we need to do is to have a structured representation of this list that a computer can process, like this, as shown in tags in the angular brackets. Like we have a shopping list tag, then the item tag, including bread, and the item tag is closed. Then again, starting item tag, including butter, and the item tag is closed. And at last, closing the shopping list tag. Now, you all must have understood that the job of NLP is to translate between these two. We can also have a live example of NLP here, only if Paul demonstrates. What do you say, Paul?
Sure. Let's do a live demonstration of, let's say, a ChatGPT. That's probably a good example we can have over there. Let me go switch over to our ChatGPT. I've got
I think
ChatGPT.
you were about to explain
Oh,
that bread and butter example.
oh, yes. I'm sorry. Let's do that.
Yeah,
We'll get that straightened out. 1 second here.
yeah. Thank you.
So sure. So let's say we wanted to do add bread and butter to a shopping list. If I wanted to do it in code, that would take a lot of elements to try and figure out. But if I wanted to do it in a natural language processing system, I would basically just say, hey, I want to log in, let's say to Safeway, and I wanted to add bread and butter to my shopping list. And then I also probably want to clear up my results at the end so I don't end up with a whole bunch of bread and butters on my shopping list.
Yeah.
I can go and update, and we'll go and run this. Actually, that would take a couple of minutes, so I'm going to walk you through. We'll do the actual live demos with shorter videos, but I'm going to show you what this actually looks like as we go through here. Now, my landing site, my starting site was Amazon, and we're going to switch over to
Okay.
here to Safeway. So if I start over here at Amazon, the first thing I'm going to do is change my navigation. And I'm going to resize my browser a little bit so that we can see what is being on the bottom of the screen, because it should give us that. One moment. I think it's just that I have gotten the image just a little bit too big. Well, there we go. So basically what we're doing is we're going to go navigate away from our landing page and go to Safeway. That will take us over to Safeway over here. And then we're going to go to the next screen, which says click on accept all, because when we start at first, we always have, do we want to have these cookies? So I'll accept all the cookies over here. We can see that's highlighted over there. The
Yes.
next thing we're going to do is go to save a stored value called Safeway user. That's my username. And we're also going to take the password out there, and we're going to go and enter that into the password for logging in. And if we take a look over here, we find the login screen. We're going to click on the login button, and then we're going to go and enter that into the screen. I say enter the stored value username, which is my username, which is actually QTPM Grossman. And then I'm going to go next and enter in the password. And lastly, we'll click on that sign on button over there. All right, gotten through the sign on. That's the first part. The next thing is we want to enter bread into our search. And let's see, there's bread. We're entering into the search. We're going to go and add, well, we're going to look for some killer bread. And it looks like we have some killer bread on the screen. It's actually above here, but we will have that added. And we're actually doing relative element location. We're looking for the word. We're looking for the button add to click beneath killer bread. And so that's why we're hitting this add up there. And let's take a look. And there's Dave's Killer Bread, and we've added one to our list. We'll keep going. We're going to go search for some butter. We've got that. And there's some butter. And what am I looking, kind of butter am I looking for? I'm looking for the challenge butter. Sounds good. We'll take a look at our next screen capture. And there's our challenge butter has been added to our list. Looks good. I'm going to go and click on our cart up there to take a look what's inside our cart. And also, we're going to validate over here. We want to verify the page contains killer bread, and we want to verify the page contains the word challenge. And if we take a look over here, there's killer bread. There's challenge butter out there. And the last thing we're going to go do is we want to go and clean this. I'm sorry, that's as far as that gets on that. And then we would have a cleanup that would go through. And we'll just take a real quick peek at that. All it is, it says, go click on the word remove until the page does not contain the word substitutes.
Substitutes.
Yep. And if we look at that, we can see that's actually our login again, basically going in a second time. We are going to go over real quick. And what I'm going to do is take a look at our yes, we've actually, that ran through once, and it was already deleted out of there. So it's always good to have a script that goes and clears out your cart as you go. But it's you saw basically all the words that we're going to talk about, all the plain English. It was just clicking on stuff. A lot of you may have heard about CSS and XPath. I didn't do any of that, and I even had a few variables in there. And got screen captures. Heck, we could probably even have some video on that, and we'll show that in a little while. So with
Yeah,
that
it looks so
primary,
easy, and
yep,
it seems we keep on, doing the tedious work day and night, just like
yep,
that.
yeah. Well, I like to make the computer do the previous, the tedious work, but
Yes,
it's go on.
making our
Back to
work
you.
easy and smarter.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, for such
Sure.
an interesting example. Now, let's think of some use cases where NLP might be quite handy. Let's see virtual assistant first. An example of a virtual assistant is Siri or Alexa on our phone. If I'm not wrong, every one of us must be using it here. What they do is listen to human utterances and derive commands from them to perform an action. Then we have a chatbot. It is similar to a virtual assistant, with the only is it analyzes human utterances in the written form and then traverses to the decision tree to make the decision. Then we have something called sentiment analysis. It takes texts, maybe the emails or the product reviews, as an input and analyzes whether it is a positive sentiment or a negative one, if the statement is written in a sarcastic manner, and so on. Spam detection. We also have a spam detection. NLP makes use of certain pointers and analyzes if it's a real email or spam. Pointers like claiming urgency, use of grammar, etc. in achieving these decision, and the list, goes on. Paul, can we have
Yes.
a quick demonstration of the chatbot, that is Chat GPT, on it for the better clarity of our audiences?
Sure, let's do that.
Thank you.
We will go over to our Chat GPT and we will jump to this. Now I'll get over to Chat GPT. Here's my Chat GPT. As an American, I really don't understand some of the holidays that are out in India. So I should learn about some of the upcoming holidays. I think Holi is coming up, right? So I will say, what is Holi? Let's see, guys. Hopefully,
Holy.
it
Yeah.
says Holi is a colorful and joyful Hindu festival that is celebrated usually in the spring.
Color
Cool.
of
Gives us
festival.
a nice generation of talking about that. But another thing that ChatGPT can do is, let's say I want to write a function in Java that adds two numbers. That sounds pretty easy. I'll do that, and it'll start writing the code for me and gives me examples on how to call that. So we're really getting into the point today where we really have a great natural language process where you can ask questions and it gives you a plain English response back at you and gives really good descriptions, and you can ask it almost any question. It's almost like that first day that you first saw Google and you thought, oh, I can ask any question, and now it's all starting all over again. So that's, I think, a
Yeah.
pretty good description of a natural language process tool with a chatbot.
And it's so easy. Ask anything and it answers.
It does. I'm not sure if it's about 95% correct when it answers, by the way. So watch your
That is
code.
also
Makes
enough.
yes, sir.
95% is a good number,
It's good.
good
I like it.
percentage. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Paul, for that self-explanatory example. It made it really easy to grab some knowledge. And now we have plain English tests written by manual testers. Let's start with this. So, as you all know, there has been a rise in the number of softwares getting released over recent years. It demands us to work smarter and not harder for faster and more efficient testing processes. You don't have to do over engineering to accomplish simple tasks like test automation. Who would disagree that test automation, even partial, can help in relieving so much pressure on the testers? However, almost every company has less test coverage than they would prefer using automation. Why? The answer usually lies in the inefficiencies of the most current test automation frameworks. I'm sorry, resulting in complicated initial setup, complex test implementation, and exhausting test maintenance. Many people would say, well, this is just the nature of it. You can't build test automation and not break a sweat. But what if you actually can? Yes, that's right, my friends. Nowadays, in the world of AI, we can actually achieve this. One doesn't need the knowledge of coding and still can do automation. What we really do is write the instructions in the plain English language, and the AI testing software takes it as a command and runs the tests. AI testing softwares can be successfully used for like automatically generating tests for you, making tests more stable, detecting elements on the screen, automatically identifying the issues. Well, that's the beauty of AI. Now let's talk about a new tool known as Test Rigger, our favorite tool, right, Paul?
Yeah, it's actually a great tool that I've been working with about 2 years, and
Okay.
it really makes automation fairly easy. But um, I'm going to give you a quick side-by-side comparison of something very easy and how
Uh,
Test Rigger would do
but I
this.
have little bit more to say about it.
Oh, absolutely. Go on ahead. I'm
Thank you.
sure.
This is an all new tool that can create autonomous, low maintenance, ultra stable functional tests. So, if you have never heard about this tool earlier, then you should really, really be looking for it. Now, the question arises, why Test Trigger? Well, it is designed in such a way that it allows anyone in your team to build and maintain the test just using plain English. You don't need to have an understanding of the complexities of the code. According to a survey, manual testers can build tests 15 times faster than QA engineers and spend, 200 times less on maintenance using test trigger. So the ultimate goal of test trigger is to allow you to write your test in your way of saying it in the plain English. Now, Paul, can you please put some light on how coding is different from natural language processing with your own experience?
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
as Harsha said, writing test cases 15 times faster than doing it in code. How can that be possible? Well, I'm going to show you on our left-hand side, if we just needed to click on an element, let's say our login button over here. If I had to do it in code, I would, in JavaScript using test WebDriver IO, I would write await and say get a button element called login, and then go and click on it. Now, this is the interesting thing about when you're choosing different languages, JavaScript has the unique feature of being able to execute lines out of order. So there's time travel that goes on. You might see my time travel car back over here, just to make reference to that. And if you don't have the await key and the keyword in there, this could execute in all sorts of orders. Like it might go click the login button, enter the password and then the username, and then nothing works. So that's the first thing we need to understand about JavaScript. Then we need to create a button, a locator to find that button. And this is the way I've written my locator. It says go find a button that is containing some text login. Maybe this word might say login user. It may become in the future, and that's why I'm using contains to try and reduce my maintenance so I don't have to go back and re-update my buttons. There's hundreds of buttons. Remember, running this 15 times faster in test rigor. What else do we have? There's my buttons being called over here. And more than likely, what I would probably do is to change this to a helper. Because if I click on this, but the button doesn't exist or it's not enabled, well, I'm going to throw an error. And what I need to do is have something that's fairly smart that says, okay, check to see if the element I passed is clickable, which means it's enabled and visible. It's a cute little shortcut on there. And then if that's all good, if that comes back true, click on it. Sounds great. But if it goes wrong, what we want to do is click and send the message describing what the element is back out to a error message and have it output. You always want to have your locator at your output in your message. You don't want it saying, hey, an element didn't exist. I failed. That's horrible information for an SDET. I won't know what button we're talking about. So it's always good to be able to pass that information back. Now, how do we do it in test rigor? Click on the login button. I think that's 15 times faster than what I had to write over here just for
Yeah.
this example.
Yes.
But there's also a dynamic way of working with our language. This has to be in a specific format. If I change any one of these elements over here, the whole script breaks. But if I were to change this to click the login button or click login button or just click login, well, then it's going to work anyway.
Anyway.
But don't take my word for it. Let's do a demo.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over here to my first demo, which is demo number 1. I'm going to hit retest, and we're going to see a live run. And it's really not all that interesting. We're basically going to go over to an automation testing site, and click on Let Me Hack, and then we're going to go log in. And that's basically there's my click login button. I'm going to jump ahead right over here. And as we've seen before, there's my login button. And that was the text that I needed to write that. It's really easy. I just opened up the URL to go over to my website. This is the website. I found this button, clicked on Let Me Hack, put in I can put in my credentials, and that's my live site. And then over here, It says, let me hack, click on the login button. But this isn't really a test. This is just navigation. I'm not even validating that anything's out there. So we should add some validation in there. But so far, the test looks good and gives us all the information that we need. In fact, what I'm going to take 1 second over here is to say, maybe what I might want to do is have 1 second here so I can have a little bit more room. I might want to see a video of this. So I'm going to quickly do a quick video demonstration before I forget, because I get so excited. I see all sorts of stuff and then I forget to show things because this is kind of cool. I'm going to hit save over here. I'm going to go back over to my test cases. I'm going to go back. I don't need to worry about my passwords. And I am going to go back to my login. We're going to go retest this. And fortunately, it only takes a few seconds to execute. So that should be fine. And we'll let it reset. It's running in a Linux box in the cloud under Chrome. And there we go. It's done over there. It's
I
just
think you're
finishing up.
actually going to prove the statement building a test automation and not break a sweat.
Uh, I hope so. And by the way, here's a play button over here. So I'm going to hit the play button. It's taking a few seconds for it to get built. So it's not that long. So let me give it another shot. And we might come back to that. We'll give it just a few more seconds as we're going through, just to kind of show you what we are doing out here. We are going and looking for a click let me hack. That found that button out there. And so like I said, it's pretty easy. Let me hit play. Now we've got our video.
And here it is.
Playing back, starting over at Amazon, jumping over to our RESTful play, and then clicking on the login button, which essentially at the very end, if I can get to it, it's when we hit the login button, I will hit the pause over there. Yeah. Let
It's
me
here.
go through here, and I'm going to hit the pause right at the right moment. And the important thing is that when I hit it, I never put in the username and password. It actually turned red over here. But that might be my expected result, that if I give it bad credentials, it logged in. Pretty easy to do. I can see all my plain English out there. That's an easy little demonstration of clicking on that button. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to turn it back over to you, Harsha.
Thank you. That was very impressive, Paul. Now let us look at identifying icon elements using artificial intelligence. Sorry. Let's talk about some basics of object detection first, like what it is and how it works. So, object detection basically answers two questions: what and where. What and where the objects are in the image. So, we can say that it is a solution used in computer vision to locate and identify an object. The variety of objects can range from humans, vehicles, and even animals. Specific objects such as the brand of packet of chips or materials used in buildings can also be detected and traced using an object detection solution. Isn't that interesting? The object detection system makes use of artificial intelligence to identify objects. Now we are clear with object detection. Let's see how it is done.
All right, we're going to
Basically,
go ahead.
basically, what happens is that large amounts of data in the form of either image or video frames are fed into a training model to teach AI what the objects look like. As soon as the model learns the look and aesthetics of the object, it is then capable of understanding a new object by learning from the old object's appearance. Object detection solution follows three easy steps to perform the identification task. Firstly, separation of objects from the background image using the probability score to determine the class to which the object belongs, like person, bicycle, dog, etc. Setting up the boundaries of the detected object with XY origins along with height and width values. Moving on, we have something more in our bucket list for OCR as well. OCR, optical character recognition. Many of you must be familiar with this term, but still, let me remind you it's a technology that enables machines to recognize and interpret printed or handwritten characters or numbers, or even symbols from an image or a scanned document. This technology is used to convert physical documents such as invoices, receipts, and forms into machine readable form for processing and analyzing. Now we have our expert, Mr. Paul, with us who can demonstrate this better for our understanding. Over to
Sure.
you, Paul.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. While you were speaking, I was showing everyone an example of how you have identification where you are training your UI to identify a particular item. Icons are always completely different. You had mentioned a person or a user. I could use the word user over here and have several different versions of the user and go and identify that information. So let's go back over and take a look at one of our tests and see what we get over there. We're still looking at our video. So I'm going to go back over here to our test cases. And we're going to go to number 2. We're going to go click on an icon. And the important thing in this one here is that I'm going to go over to, I had one extra site that I didn't show you guys. So I will go and add Airbnb as our example. So paste that up there. And this is where I'm going to for Airbnb. What I want to do is click this particular element over here. I'm going to go and get a little sneaky in here. We're going to do a inspect on that, and we're going to see if we can find out if that is a user or what kind of element it is, if there's something that we can use to identify it. And as I'm looking through it, I can see it's an SVG element. It's saying the ARIA is hidden. But there's nothing saying that it's a user or anything that's identifiable as an element that we could use to go and click on it. In fact, it's a lot of numbers and gobbledygook. Uh, Even the icon itself doesn't have a good description to it. It just says it's SVG. So there's got to be a way to find that, and the best way is to use that user identification to have AI find that element. So I'm going to go back over to my test, and we're going to say, go click on the second user. And by the way, there are 2 elements that matches for user. This is relative element location. So we could say the one I want is the second user. And I'm going to go and hit retest on that. As we can see, several of these tests take let's see, some can take 15 seconds. Our next one will take 15 seconds. We can see 16 seconds. This one takes a little bit longer. It's about a minute to go and execute. This is when you get to the point where you can't identify an element any other way. The
That's okay. We can wait for such a good thing to happen.
Yeah, yeah. But I like having the
It's
way I
worth
look
it.
at it is definitely worth it. I also like to think of myself as a superhero, and I've got a lot of tools in my tool belt. And the primary one is identifying by just the description, the name. Secondary one is to say, oh, I might look at it by an XPath or CSS. And by the way, yes, this tool can support CSS or XPath. I'm just not going to use it during this demo because I don't need it. The third way is to identify something by an image. And we are at the point where we're trying to find that element over there. But AI does take a little bit longer to do that. And another way you could do it is by optical character recognition. So let's give it a second here. You also see over here that there's a red button. This is another feature where it is telling us how quickly did it take for this page to build from this site, from this page to this one. And that might be something we might be concerned about if we're going to Airbnb, but it's taking 11 seconds for the page to come up and finish building. Let's see what we have there. It says click the second user, and sure enough, it found our element up there and took us to our next page. And that will, this is a fairly short test, so that's going to be our end over there. And I clicked on that and opened up a drop-down list where we could go and move on from that point in the test. We had a nice pass. We also have a nice little video, but we've already seen that. And I will tell you that the turning on the videos does give a little overhead. So for the rest of the videos, for the rest of the demos, I'm going to shut that off. And that's essentially how you can identify elements by an icon when you don't have the text on the screen. And back to you, Harsha. What do you think of that? Was that pretty cool?
Yeah, very cool, very interesting. Okay, then let's get into code reuse. Let's discuss how it can be a key to building applications. It's very important and interesting as well. First of all, what is code reusability? Now, as the name implies, it refers to any technique that allows the reuse of the code across the software system. The reusability of code within an application can take multiple forms like classes, functions, libraries, etc. etc. We all are aware of all these. You may reuse any module, the idea remains the same. You grab lines of the code and reuse them somewhere else. Modular design, on the other hand, is a design principle that subdivides a system into smaller parts called modules, which can be independently created, modified, or even replaced with other modules. It is shown to improve the design process by allowing better reusability, workload handling, and easier debugging process. Modular design and design reuse enable more rapid development of new products, new versions, or enhancements of existing products without having to incur the time and expense of designing and manufacturing from scratch each time. For example, existing module designs can be used as a starting point to upgrade or improve a module function or technology. Design reuse is an important tool that enables companies to focus more of their design efforts, including time and resources, on designing better future products. A great advantage of modular design is that the development of any new modules can proceed largely in parallel, saving significant time as compared to an integrative approach to design. Now, Paul, can we have some demonstration on this with your own
Sure.
examples?
Absolutely. Thank you, Harsha. Good description on that. And in fact, this
Thank
is going to be a double demo because I realized on the last one I had mentioned about how we could identify objects by optical character recognition. So I'm going to
you.
do
Wow.
both of those at the same time.
Okay.
So I'm going to go over here to my OCR tests. It's only 13 seconds. Let me see how long it is. Well, we have a lot of little things here. We're going to go over to the theme forest over here. This is our theme forest. And we're going to go and try and hit this element here. It's the item RSS feed. One more time, I'm going to go and inspect this and see how I can go and hit that. I hit Control Find. I will look for the text that is on that screen. And I believe I have jumped one page. I think it's because I have taken up. There we go. It is back. So we're looking for item RSS in this the demo to start. RSS. And look at this. I typed in RS. I see that it's there, but there's no match for anything that says RSS. So what I'm going to do is two things. One is that I'm going to go and click on RSS, item RSS feed, the text that's on that picture, and I'm going to tell it using optical character recognition. And then the next thing, by the way, when we go to that page, we are going to find that if we click on it, we get an error that says page not found. So I'll make it a test that does an actual validation now. And we're going to say verify that the page contains error, page not found. But we're going to do the third thing, which is what Harsha was talking about, which was modular design. Let's say we had this text copied over and over again in multiple test cases. In fact, I will take this copy over here, and I'm going to go and create myself a brand new test. And I'll paste that in there like so. And we'll call this the copy test. Identical. I'm going to grab these two lines of code here, and we're going to make those into a module. I'm going to add and run over here. I don't really need to have that. Well, I can let it run. That's fine. But what I want to do is go over to our modules, which we call them reusable rules. And in this case, I'm going to go and place this reusable rule over here, saying go click on this using OCR only and go and check this page. I've got 2 test cases. I would assume at some point they fix that and we get something a little bit more interesting out of our 2 tests. I'm going to give it a name over here. I'll say check RSS feed and error. I'll call it that. I like that. And I'm also going to use that as a label so that we could find test cases that have that. And I'm going to sit here and say click and then find and replace. And it comes back and says your demo OCR 003 has these tests in them and also the copy test that I created. Do we want to replace both of these? Absolutely. We'll replace those. I'm going to go back over to my test case. It looks like my copy test actually executed and passed, so that's great. Now, if I take a look at what I'd written, we've now replaced those 2 lines of code with the check RSS feed and error. Now it's a reusable function, and if I ever have to change that and update it so that it no longer gives me an error that says error page not found, I can do it not in both those test cases. I can just go to the one reusable rule and go and modify it and change and say, okay, the page was found, or whatever happens to be on the page once the developers add that functionality. So I think that's a threefer. We talked about finding objects by optical character recognition and modular design, and also adding a validation in there to verify. And now it's officially a test because it's verifying something on the screen. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Harsha.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for your insightful and impressive demonstrations. They were so much self-explanatory. So I hope the audience must have learned a lot from this session. All thanks to Paul. I would also like to thank everyone for joining us. Please feel free to ask your queries in chat. We would be happy to resolve them.
I see some claps going on over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See that? Okay, let's take a peek at some of these questions out here.
And now we have a question.
Okay, what's that?
Okay. So the question is it possible to integrate test trigger with CI/CD pipeline? Yes, of course, it is possible. We can do it.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back over here and show you that. In
Another
fact,
question.
well, hang on one second. Let me show everybody the integration there. What we can do is there is CI/CD integration over here with bash shells. You would just put this in here, and then you can add this in to allow Jenkins to execute it. But that's not the only way you can do it. You could also go to the settings page over here, and if we go to integrations, at the very bottom, it's not integrations. Let me 1 second here. I believe it's advanced. And if we go at the very bottom, there's this feature down here called monitoring, which is just the same thing as kind of like Jenkins. You could set it up to say, I want it to execute once a day at midnight, or I want it to execute once, twice a day, or maybe every 4 hours, or even, let's say, every week, starting on Tuesdays at midnight. Same thing. It'll run all the test cases automatically, and you're good to go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. One more question I can see from Pallavi. Can we use our existing framework with test trigger? Yeah, it is absolutely possible to use our existing framework with test trigger. And once you have done that integration, you can use test trigger to create and run tests. For more details, I'm also pasting some links in the chat for your convenience.
Does this tool support version control? I'm going to show you how it does that. It actually does. It's kind of cool. I'm going to go back over to my test cases over here. And I'm going to go take a look at that click icon test. And if I open it up, there is a button over here that says edit test case. It really is misnamed. It's basically the version control. If I click on it, it's going to allow me to take a look at the test, small sample there, but hidden underneath is all of the test runs. Everything that I've been doing for the last, I don't know, it's been about a month or two. We've been planning on this, and all my runs starting back in January 22nd show what was going on and how things were being tested as we went through the application and made changes as we went through. You can see we were starting off with Macy's and then went over to Airbnb. So you can actually see the versioning, the additional versioning on the sites out there, and um, I think that is, if we go to details, well, we would get the test that was written at the time when we created it. So yeah, you can actually version and go back to previous versions of test cases in case you broke something. You can go and get the previous version of that. So there you go.
Thank you.
Hmm?
So, hope this has cleared your doubts. And still, if you have any queries, please feel free to reach us at BugRaptors, sorry, info@bugraptors.com. I'll be pasting it in the chat as well. And if you wish to connect with us, we are sharing our LinkedIn IDs as well in the chat. Thanks
Oh,
again and
hey,
hope to see
hold
you
on.
all in our.
Harsha, okay, wait a second, wait a second. They got one more question out here. We got at least 2 minutes here. I didn't want to let
Oh,
this get away
okay,
before
okay, okay. I'm sorry.
Adidas Sharma. No, it's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but this is kind of cool. Adidas Sharma asks, can that do cross-browser testing? That's a great question, and we have time for just one more demo. If I go over here and down here we have multiple browsers, I can say, yep, I can change to Chrome or Firefox, or I could add in Windows and I could test this, let's say, on Edge. Internet Explorer, if anyone's still using it, probably not. The only validation is that your website should come up and say use a modern browser. And then you could also do it on a Mac. And let's go see on Firefox. So here we are adding those browsers. I got 3 different operating systems, 3 different browsers. I'm going to save on that. I'm going to go back to one of our shortest test cases and have it execute. I think we'll have that copy test that I just did. And I'm going to go and hit retest on this. And I'll show you something kind of cool in just a second as soon as it resets. So that's an important question out there. Okay, if I click on this, we can see all 3 of these operating systems, all the tests executing at the same time. So not only do you get multiple browsers, multiple operating systems, you also get concurrent test execution. So you have 10 test cases. They each take a minute to execute. If you purchase 10 licenses, you can get your results in 1 minute. And there it goes, completing all the way through. All right, that's my last demo. And Patarik was just asking, does it support parallel execution? Which is what I just showed you, which is great. I love you guys. You're asking just
Yeah,
the right questions at the right time. Appreciate your effort on demonstrating each and every question. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to let Harsha wrap us up over here,
yeah,
and
sure.
I'll put this up.
So we are also sharing our LinkedIn IDs in case you want to connect with us and in case you have any queries. I'm sharing the mail ID info at the rate bugraptors.com all in the chat right here. Thanks again and hope to see you all in our upcoming webinars from the industry experts. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul and Harsha. It was really very great webinar, and I have learned a lot being not a tester, and I hope testers must have learned a lot than me. Thank you so much, and thanks for setting up an example for our coming webinars. And hope to see you again with us, Paul. You were such a wonderful support, and thanks for all the efforts, and thanks for being so much patience with us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Harsha. It was
Thank you.
great. Thank you, and I hope everyone from the organization will definitely set you as an example for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Paul. See you then. Thank you,
See you.
everyone.
Cheers.
Bye bye.